I'm Dan van Ramshorst. I graduated with a project called Map of Humanity, and I choose this because I believe that knowing more about the past improves your ability to understand and appreciate the present. My interest in history has always been suppressed by boring books and long Wikipedia articles. Based on this, I decided to create a visual history. I called it Map of Humanity. But to do this in a graduation format, I needed to have a client, which quickly became the University of Twente. And I needed to determine what spectrum I was working in. So I decided to make a map with a time dimension. To add to that, I wanted to only work on the area of the history of the university, so the area of the university in the last 60 years. And it needed to be a proof of concept that actually a visual history could work. But then the question is, what is already out there? And actually what is out there is specialist programs like this program. It shows you the routes of the Roman Empire, but it only shows the Roman era, and it only shows you routing information. And there's also other platforms. This is a Dutch website from the Cadastre. It shows you land maps, showing you mostly the roads, and you can choose, actually you can go back till the 1800s, which is crazy, really cool. But it's only pixels, so you only see like roads and you cannot really zoom in or interact with the map. Based on this and some interviews, I created some specifications, some things that needed to be in the prototype. It needed to be open source, it needed to be easy to use, it should be crowdsourced, so it should be not made by one company or one person, but everyone should be able to interact with it, like Wikipedia. It should be innovative, it should use real data obviously, it should be visual, that sort of things. Then I started the prototyping phase, and this is one of the early prototypes. And you can already see the map coming along, but there's no time dimension yet, and the interactivity doesn't really work yet. And then I made many more other prototypes, and actually met every week with Angelica to show newer work. And then I ended up with this prototype. This is actually a working prototype. The line on the bottom is the time. If the left shows you the 1960 and the right will show you the today. And the top left shows you information on the current thing you're clicking on. And now it's general information because nothing is clicked. Top right is the date, and there's also here at the bottom, there are also things to show layers of aerial photography. And it will show you more image-based information. So I have a small video to show you how it works. This is live, or not live right now, but I filmed it live. This is how it was in 1960. Now you can see the campus changing all over time. And you can interact with it, so you can zoom in, you can click on things, you get information. And those pictures, actually, if you click on it, you go back to the database where they came from. You can explore more pictures about the same subject. And now I go back to the 1960s in the zoomed version, and you can click on pictures that are there from that time, but you can also show how, if there are photos of it, you can show how it was there and then. So this is basically the prototype. This is a quick look at it because you can explore it for hours. To evaluate this, I did some interviews with people, and from that information came some interesting feedback, some constructive feedback about that they really liked the part that it was collaborative, and that and that should be a main focus for going on with this project. And that it should be, they encouraged me to develop more features and go further with it, focused on the easy to use, because you want everyone to use it, and especially if you talk about history, all generations are interested, but that should also mean that everyone should be able to use it. And it was interesting to see their reactions, because many people went actually in a sort of nostalgia mode, where they went back in time and were like telling stories about things on the map, which they experienced in real life, and stories they have lived themselves. So that was some really good validation that I was on a good path. From these interviews, I selected a few things that I wanted to improve, actually, and so it should be very collaborative, but also between organizations and between people. So the organizations would be working together with municipalities, with museums, with archives, so that we can all share our data, and they would allow me to use their data on the website, but I also give them more information about their data. For example, think of a photo where they give me allow me to see the photo or to present it on the website, but I will send them back where the photo has been taken, when it has been taken, which things are on the pictures. But it's also very important to build a very strong community. In a sense, it's very much like Wikipedia, and the community really makes the data, or not really makes the data, but connects it and organizes it. And I think this is a very important part to make it robust and to make sure no one owns the history. And it should be based on a real solid database. This database should be very flexible so that it can be shown on the map, but it can also be shown in augmented reality, for example, where you could show the same data, but in a very different visual interface, and allowing also visualizations with, for example, you can show an album of photos based on search results of certain period, certain location, certain theme. I've done this as a graduation project, and that's now done, or that's now being finished. But I also have the ambition to continue with it, to see how we can make this project work on a bigger scale, and to develop it really in the whole area. And so this will be like the coming years, or coming year maybe. And then if this is proven to work, then we'll try to grow further and go international. Yeah, that's actually it. And I also want to thank very much Creative Technology, the study, because they allowed me to do this graduation project, and because it's a very specific project. I designed it myself, but I was really happy that this flexibility was available. And I would really like to thank Angelica Mader, because she put up with me a whole year, every week, to help me and to give me feedback, and she was always there, and she always was very helpful to me. And I see I have some time left, so I'll just show you a thing that really is actually pretty innovative, that is not there in many other platforms. That you can really see the change over time. So this is 1960, and you see this is actually before the campus was there. It was what's it called in Dutch, a landgoed. And if I go every click I make, I will go forward a few years, and you see really everything change on the map. And that's actually the interesting thing. It's not about the raw data, because this data is already there, but by connecting it, you can see the changes over time. And actually, I found in the interviews that it's actually the changes that is most interesting, and not really the raw data. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you. So the ambition is doing the whole world in the long term. But we're not quite there yet. Actually, on a very small scale here, Enschede, it would be very interesting to see what they call the vuurwerkramp, because then you can really see how it was before, because people that live now today and never saw it have no idea how it was before, and to see how the really impact that it had. Sometimes these kind of big events are interesting, but I think it's also very interesting to be able to compare maybe pre-war Europe and today, because you can make big jumps also in comparing. Also things like Pompeii, or like really historical sites, and bring them to life. That would be really, really interesting to me, but not yet. So from the UT, I had pretty solid sources. They were technical drawings, and they were only 60 years old, so they're really, really precise. But you touch on an interesting point, because the farther you go back in time, the less accurate the data gets and less specific. And at that point, you really have to rely on cross-referencing sources, like Wikipedia functions actually, having many sources to determine what was real and what was maybe embellishment, because old maps tend to or the people drawing the maps tend to like to put some things in that the people ordering the maps, the kings or queens, really like. So they draw more straight streets or that sort of stuff. So technically, it's quite feasible because actually it's already the basic infrastructure is already there for crowdsourcing. I was the only crowdsourcing this part, but there was technically it was possible for everyone to work on it. For really stimulating the community, that's a very interesting challenge. And that's also why I want to work together with all the organizations. Because, for example, the municipality of Enschede has an archive. And in this archive, there are already volunteers working and improving historical data. So sharing this kind of knowledge they have about building their community is really interesting. But also to have joint events. And basically, one of the strategies is organizing events where people can come. And it's going to be about history, but you can also learn about how to add the history to this. Or people, I think the very important thing for the community to be strong is not have everyone do everything, but have people do specific things that are really feasible or that really connect with them. So for example, you could do things like work with school children that are interested to know more about history because of classes or whatever, and then they go interview their grandparents and only make an audio file and only ask them all kind of questions about the past. And this is very nice for the community in general, but this generates these audio files that can be then transcribed by another person, and this data can then be processed by all kind of different people. And this is one example of how you can separate all the tasks and make everyone do only things that are really interesting to them. So you could also have an event with a museum and work on their, for example, the Twentse Welle. They have their museum is about the city, but maybe also about one era of the industrial era of Enschede, and then organize an event there and work together. So it's all about the collaboration between the organizations and the people. And also, I want to use the, how do you call it? The student-based, or how the students do it actually. They have like they have a board, and then they have commissions, committees under it, committees, and they help make things happen, organize events and that sort of stuff. And the same thing I would like, if there's enough community, I would like neighborhoods, for example, or parts of Enschede to have their own committee that organize their own events and to really be decentralized. And that's also the strategy to grow afterwards, because if Enschede works, it needs to be, other places cannot all be made by me. So it should be bottom up, basically.